Morning. Picture a group of students going out in blizzard conditions because regardless of the weather, they're going to go out and they're going to collect donations for a Christmas morning event. Then they're going to bring them back to the school and they're going to carefully wrap them, mark them from Santa Claus, and have them ready for Christmas morning. Not all of them will be there on Christmas morning, but those that can be will also be in a hotel on Christmas Eve because they have to be up at 6 a.m. and on their way to the Legion to create Christmas for seniors of the community. Seniors for whom Christmas is often a time of loss, loved ones far away, and long-lost loved ones as well. These youth would be amazing no matter where they were, but now picture that they're alternate school youth. They are ones that wear stereotypes of being bad kids, drug addicts, those unable to complete school. Nothing could be further from the truth because there they are giving up their Christmas morning to make sure the seniors are looked after. One grad who has been with us for a number of years and never misses an event once told me that her Christmases were awful because of her parents' addiction. These were the only good Christmases she had, and now she wants her children to grow up with that as well. Hard to imagine, but when I arrived at the school, these were the outcasts of the community. The community had put up a fight about the alternate school coming into town so that the alternate school would be in front of the high school. They called trustees, they tried to set up public meetings. They didn't want those kids anywhere near their kids. But I came and I had a different idea. I believe there's no such thing as problem youth, just youth with problems. And if we can teach them to cope with those problems, they can soar. So we had to bring them in, and we had to change a community perception. First thing we did was we renamed the school. We called it ACE, Agassiz Center for Education, and we changed it to a school of choice. Prior to that, across BC, I don't know how many of you would know this, but to get into an alternate program, you had to be sent by a high school, and you had to have done something pretty drastic to be sent there. But I thought about this, and what message does that send? It says to them, you're broken, so we're going to send you over there, and if they fix you, you can come back to the real school. The real school is something that I hear a lot, that alternate schools are not real schools. I was lucky I had a high school willing to work with me, and we created a self-referral process. So as soon as things started going a little bit off kilter, ACE would be suggested. Or the students could come in on their own with their parents, and we would have an intake meeting. We would determine whether they needed an alternate program, and if they did, they were welcome to come into it. This was the first step in changing perceptions. We had to change perceptions in the community. I had to convince the community that these kids were worth it and that we could do it. But sadly, because of the way they were sent sometimes, I had to convince the kids themselves. Another misperception out there is that alternate schools are not real schools. As I said, I hear that quite often, and it's sad. We are public schools. There's a belief that you can't graduate from an alternate school. Nothing could be further from the truth. Alternate students receive the exact same credentials as any other school, but they also graduate with a perspective and a strength they wouldn't get in other schools. Frances, for example, came to us. She had been an honor roll student, but she had had to miss 2 years because her mother was very ill. Her grandpa decided it was time to go back to school, and he dragged her in pretty much kicking and screaming. She had her own perception of alternate students, and she believed that she wouldn't be able to go to university and become the marine biologist that she wanted. Fast forward to now. The loss of Frances's mother was something we could help her deal with in an alternate program. She is now on track. She will be going to university, and now she has no intention of leaving. Recently, we had an interview. 4 of our students, Francis, Ivy, Leslie, and Emma, all spoke of coming to the alternate program and how they didn't want to really come. They had their perceptions based on these stereotypes that we fight every day, and they didn't want to be there. But if you ask them now why they're there, they will tell you it's because it's safe, it's caring, they'll mention the supports. But my personal favorite, they're there because they want to be. In order to overcome a lot of the stigma of the alternate, I decided that we needed to create partnerships in the community. Partnerships were going to be very important. These kids had to be integrated back into the community. So you will see the first one was the Legion. Jim Johnson was a retired teacher. He was the president at the time, and he understood alternate students and what I was trying to accomplish. So we created a partnership, and he came in, and you'll see he brought artifacts, and he let them try on the gas mask, and he let them ask questions, and he would teach them. And sometimes he would stop by the school just to visit, and if he wasn't there for a few days, the students would notice and comment on that. The partnership grew. We started using their hall for a variety of events, which was really amazing, because at the time we did not have a formal graduation. But with the Legion partnership, there was a hall, and it had a commercial kitchen. So now we had a hall, we had a kitchen, and we had a grad. At the first grad, a man named Frank approached me. Frank had 2 grandchildren in my program, so he understood what I was trying to accomplish and what alternate youth were capable of. So he approached me, but sadly, the message was, the seniors in the community are afraid of your students. I found that sad and actually a little humorous because there was nothing to be afraid of. But I talked to Frank, and we created senior teen events. And the vision was that they were going to have lunch together, and the youth would serve the seniors, and then they would spend the afternoon together in a variety of activities. We tried a few different activities. Bingo ended up being the favorite, by far. The dance lessons, not so much. But in looking around the first day, I realized seniors have a lot of love to give, but not always people to give it to. Alternate youth need a lot of love, and they haven't always received what they needed. So when we put them together, magic happened. And they started off small, but pretty soon the hall was at capacity. Pretty soon I was having to go to the elementary school to bring students from there to help us out because we couldn't keep up with the demand. The seniors were talking and sharing their life stories, and the students were excited about it. And I was hearing that they were holding doors in the community and helping seniors with groceries, and these great friendships came out of that. Gone were the days that the seniors saw those kids as scary, because they now had names. Gone were the days that the youth saw the seniors as boring, because they heard the stories. While we were doing the senior teen, we also were doing fundraising because that also integrated the kids into the community because we sell publicly. You will see up here our famous Ace Burger, which I'm sure will make some of you hungry. But thankfully it's before lunch, so it's on its way. So the Ace Burger barbecue was to get them in the community, get them working with the community. It went from selling 40 in about a 2-hour period to over 100. People went crazy for the sauce. We even had to start bottling it and marketing it. And yes, the students actually make and bottle the sauce. But what was interesting about the barbecues wasn't just that they were a success, but they brought seniors out. The seniors, I guess partly they loved the burgers. I mean, what's not to love, right? So partly they loved the burgers, but they also came to support the students, to see their friends. They told their senior friends about it, and pretty soon our barbecues became almost like a senior teen event with the 2 groups interacting yet again. So from all of this exposure to seniors that I had, I heard many times that they were sad that they didn't complete their diplomas. So being the somewhat unique individual that I can be, I thought, why not bring them back to school with the alternate youth? I was capable of doing that. Thank you. I was capable of doing that because I have adult and alternate coming out of the same school. So I created, and I had to come up with a funny name because that's just how I roll, high school seniors. And the first year I brought an 89, an 80, and a 76-year-old in. And they studied alongside the youth, and they were terrified because after that many years out of school, there was no way they were going to be able to do it, especially math. They complained bitterly about math. But they did, and all of them graduated, and they graduated alongside the youth. Kay was 89 years old. She was the oldest person in Canadian history to graduate, and I think to this day we are the school that has graduated the oldest person. I don't think that's changed. But it was amazing. There were reporters and cameras, and I can't even describe, just a barrage of press everywhere. And people said to me, but it's all about the seniors. And I said, but it's not, because the students are in the background of every picture. They were interviewed, they were on the news, they went international as well, so they still benefited. How many alternate schools get that kind of coverage on their grad ever? In class, these are two others in a later program. We've now graduated 8 seniors to date. So these were 2 others, and you'll see them interacting with the students. The students have gifts that they can give the seniors, like knowledge of technology, that kind of thing. That's quite obvious. And the seniors have an interesting perspective from their life stories, their history, their wisdom. And the 2 interacting is amazing to watch. It's also interesting to watch when they've actually lived something. As Kay once told me, she was so good at history because she was actually there. So in addition to that, they socialized, they became friends. It was like watching youth banter with each other. We don't allow swearing in the school, and one day one of the seniors let the B word slip. So Austin started laughing, and he looked at me to see if I was going to do anything about it. So I looked at her and I said, he's laughing because he wants to know if I'm going to discipline you. So she was trying to convince me that the B word was not indeed swearing. And then the play argument between the 2 of them began. And at one point, Austin even threatened to call the home and tell on her. And it was amazing to watch. It was funny, and I enjoyed it. But it also warmed my heart because they were so comfortable with each other that they could have this kind of conversation. It was like friends talking, and it was amazing. After that, we created a big buddy program with Kent Elementary. The principal approached me and wanted my students to kind of become the seniors and the role models for the youth. So we go over there, variety of activities, sports, crafts, that kind of thing, and sometimes just playing on the playground. But my students take what they've learned from everything they've gone through and pass it on to the younger ones with behavior issues so that they can avoid the same pitfalls that my kids had to go through. It is amusing because sometimes the behavior of the younger ones isn't exemplary, and my students will lose patience and come to me griping about what the younger ones are doing when I point out to them that that was them a few years ago. I see the light bulb goes on, and that's quite amusing to watch. A couple of them have said over the years that it's the best birth control they ever had. But what I like about it is it's an excellent gauge for those kids, to see how far they have come. Another event we do is an Intergenerational Day. Not many people know it, but June 1st is National Intergenerational Day. So now we create an event, and it can change from year to year depending on the businesses involved, but we have 2 constants. And one is the wheelchair walk, and the other is the Ace Burger Barbecue, of course. So Kent Elementary sends students to the home to pick up seniors who don't normally make it to our barbecues, and they push them several blocks in wheelchairs to the event so that they can participate. It's open to the community, plus we have our regulars. So you can imagine when the wheelchair walk arrives, the high volume and high stress of serving that many burgers, because people are hungry and they want it now. But my kids pull it off beautifully every year. Back to our Christmas event. Of all the events we do, this one is probably the most endearing to the community. It all began when I was not going to Alberta one year, and that was where my family was. And I was thinking about my invitations and everything I had to do, but then it got me to thinking about the seniors who'd be alone, unwrap their gifts alone, have breakfast alone. And this is after years of looking after others and making spectacular Christmases for their own families. So I thought this was wrong, and I went into school and I proposed to the kids, why don't we do this event and we will cook them breakfast and we will give them gifts. And the kids rallied because we only had just over a week to get it together. But we did, and it has become a tradition every year. And then on Christmas Eve, I take them to a hotel. Many of them haven't been in a nice hotel. They love the pool. I have a hard time getting them out of the pool. But one of my favorite memories is 2 girls coming down looking like they hadn't slept at all. So I asked them about it, and they said they couldn't sleep because the electric fireplace was too hot. Knowing they would have been the ones to turn it on, I said, why didn't you just turn it off? And they said, because we've never had one before. And it was so nice. And I thought, wow, they've never had or seen an electric fireplace, and they're giving up their Christmas to make sure others are looked after. From the Christmas morning event, we won an award. We've won many awards, actually, and we've been featured in a lot of places. But the Betty Urquhart Award from the University of the Fraser Valley for community service was one of the bigger ones because the students were allowed to come with me. So we rented a limo, and I bought them all their own champagne glass, and we filled it with sparkling apple juice, and we rode in style to the UFV campus, all dressed up in our school colors, which, by the way, was the students' idea, not mine. And we piled out of the limousine, and we turned heads. And UFV treated us like VIPs, and we went up and accepted that award in front of hundreds of people at their convocation. And it was amazing, and it had a lasting impact. But for me, this showed the community, first of all, they clean up really nicely, don't they? Okay. Showed them what we can do, what alternate youth can do, what overgrown alternate youth can do. So I'm going to leave you with this picture. These are those kids now. This is an important photo because it's when I got my master's degree. And that for me was monumental for a variety of reasons. But my convocation was a sad time because my mother was dying and my family couldn't make it out from Edmonton. But there's my ACE family rallying around me and making sure that day was special for me. The Outcasts are now the Incasts. And those kids are our kids. And our entire community benefits from having them in our lives. Thank you.